The pride of Manchester City Art Gallery is one of the finest collections of pre-Raphaelite paintings in the world. One of them by Holman Hunt once rivalled in popularity Sir Edwin Landseer's Monarch of the Glen. And the subject of another of Hunt's paintings is, like Landseer's, of an animal. But unlike Landseer's stag, there is nothing noble about Holman's creature. It is a bedraggled and dejected little goat on its last legs, not long for this world. The setting is a desert. As far as the eye can see is a vast, unbroken wilderness, without water or vegetation. The sterile sand surrounds, and the pitiless sun beats down upon the pathetic beast. But arched around it is a magnificent rainbow, the biblical sign that judgment has passed and hope renewed. The painting entitled The Scapegoat refers to the central figure in an ancient Jewish drama. Once a year, the high priest made confession of his people's sins. Then, laying his hands on a goat, he ceremoniously transferred the people's guilt to the innocent beast. A scarlet string was tied around its neck, and it was led away into the wilderness. The crowd encouraged its departure by pulling out its wool, pricking it, spitting on it, cursing it, and urging it to be gone. Its final destination was the edge of a cliff. There, a rock was tied to the string, and it was thrown to its death. According to legend, a scarlet thread attached to the door of the temple turned white at the very moment the scapegoat hurled over the precipice. It was the sign that the people were cleansed from their sin. The early church saw in this doomed beast the outlines of another wilderness and another death. Christ was offered once to bear the burden of man's sins, wrote one New Testament theologian. The stumbling steps of Jesus on his Via Dolorosa echo the hooves of the little beast on the streets of Jerusalem. And although no rainbow features in the biblical narrative, on Easter Day, the light of God breaks through the prism of the world's tears and shimmers out in glory and beauty. The scarlet thread is broken, and the word is spoken to the world. Though your sins are as scarlet, they may become as white as snow. Though they are dyed crimson, they may yet be like wool. The other painting by Holman had made even Landseer look to his laurels. It's entitled The Light of the World. Years ago, prints of this painting adorned many, many homes. I remember it vividly because one was on the wall behind the pulpit in the mission hall where that light first dazzled me. Often visiting preachers, if they began to run out of steam during their long sermons, would point to it and fill another half hour or so expounding its meaning. It's a painting of a king, crowned with gold and robed in white. It's night, and in one hand he carries a lantern which illuminates a dark, ivy-covered door. There appears to be little in common between this painting and that of the scapegoat. What has this noble, calm, commanding figure to do with the battered, pitiable, tragic animal on the adjoining wall of the gallery? Well, when you look closely at the light of the world, you'll see that the hand holding the lantern is wounded, and his brow still bears the marks of another crown, one fashioned from thorns. This is a king who has entered into and returned from the wilderness and still bears the scars of his journey. Here is one who has been to hell and back, and it shows. It's now almost 60 years ago that I last heard a preacher refer to that print. But I still remember the one detail he would invariably point to. The king is knocking on the door. "Do you notice something strange about that door?" he would ask. And then answer, "You can't see a handle. The door can only be opened from inside." This is a gentle and courteous king who never batters his way in. He still stands there, before the dark, weed-covered places we would rather hide from his eyes, and he promises that if we open the door to him, he who already knows all about us will enter and share his life with us and will fill our darkness with his radiance. That's why, in spite of all, we call this Friday good. And we sing with the blind poet and preacher George Matheson, "O joy that seekest me through pain, I cannot close my heart to thee. I trace the rainbow through the rain, and feel the promise is not vain, that morn shall tearless be."